Welcome everybody to SOAP training at soapuitutorial.com. In this session, I will be talking about assertions. Fine. Uh, why assertions are used, how to use them, and what is the best way to use them. Fine. Basically, what is an assertion? Many of you who have done automation and all, they might be knowing what assertions are, and similarly, assertions are also used out here. Okay. For example, taking the football project. Okay, this is the WSDL for football project. So in my SOAP UI, I'll make a new project and call it football SOAP UI free version 3. This is the model 3, which is having assertions. Fine. Sorry, these are all the interfaces, and this is one interface and having a lot of operations. Now, suppose I make a simple request in this, that is, I make a new test suite, and in this test suite, I make a new test case. In this test case, I make a new test step, and I make a request. Fine. And that request is, suppose, a very simple request like get all player names. Fine. Now, by default, you would be seeing here 4 topics, that is add SOAP response assertion, schema assertion, not SOAP fault assertion, create optional events. So we'll be talking about all of them right now in some time. Fine. So you just click on OK and you will see a request like this generated, and when you run this you get the response having all the player names, the player ID, the country name, the URL of the country, flag and all everything. So you get different parameters. Right. Now, what all would you like to validate in a response? Fine. Well, you can validate. Sometimes you would like to validate, say, whether the response is a valid SOAP response or not. Now, what do you mean by valid SOAP response? Well, SOAP is a protocol. SOAP is a protocol used to implement web service. Now there has to be some rules and regulations while implementing the SOAP response, right? So you need to validate that whether it is as per the SOAP protocol or not. Fine. Secondly, you would like to validate, say, the data which is returned. Fine, that is the ID, name, country name, and all everything. Okay. Or you would like to validate the name of the tags. That means whether the tag names are correct or they are present or not. Fine. Like in this response, what we have is that we have got all the players. So in this kind of response, wherein you have got similar tags but repeating themselves, so you would also like to validate the count of the data. That means the total number of times the records are coming up. Fine. So you would also like to validate that. Okay. What else would you like to validate in the response? Well, it can be that say the time taken for a response to come. That is, you send a request and you can define, say, my response should come within 5 seconds of sending the request or 10 seconds, whatever it is. You would like to validate that, right? What else? Now, at times, when you send a request, you get a response. In response, you get the status code. That is 200 is okay. Sometimes the status code is 404 not found or something like that. So you would like to validate the status codes as well. That is, what is the status of the response. Okay. Now these are some of the parameters which you would like to validate. Okay. Now in this kind of scenario, you can use assertions in SOAP UI. Now there are various assertions in SOAP UI. If you select your test request, assertions are added onto the test request. That means you can add an assertion by clicking on this icon over here. Okay, I'll click on this icon and you see there are various types of assertions: property, content, compliance, script, SLA, JMS. JDBC is not available in the free version of SOAP UI, but we can use it later on. I'll tell you how we can use it. And security assertions. Fine. So let's start with property content assertion. This kind of assertion has got four things inside it: contains, not contains, XPath match, and XQuery match. Right? Now contains is quite simple. This will simply test whether something, hold on, I'll just write it over here, contains. This will check for uh, string in the response. That is, suppose I select this, double click on contains, and this will come up. Now I want to check if my request contains something, right? Hold on, I'll just cancel it. Go to Excel, right? I want to check whether this word is present in my response or not. So I can copy this. I can see this is the contains assertions which I just added. I can double click on it to modify it. Fine, and I can keep this uh, content over here. Fine. You can also use regular expressions out here, but generally we don't use out here. Okay. You can use. I'll come over to regular expressions. Hold on. Fine. I'll come over to it. Just watch the complete module. In the end, you will come to know what I'm trying to say. Right. So this is the content, and you can click on OK. So this assertion is in green. It is passing. Suppose if I now run this, this will run, response will come, and both these assertions will be executed. This assertion is a SOAP response assertion. It got added by default. You know what? If I delete this test request, suppose, and I add another test request, and I select a test request like the same one, all player names. In this screen, this checkbox is checked. Add SOAP UI assertion, add SOAP response assertion. This validates whether the response is a SOAP message or not. Right? So this message, this by default, every message will have this assertion, should have this assertion. This kind of assertion, it will validate whether the response complies to the SOAP UI standards or not. So it's inbuilt. They really don't have to worry for it. You just run it and you check your response. If this assertion is marked in green, that means the response is a valid SOAP UI response. Right? Apart from that, you can add another assertion like I just added property content contains, and suppose I write over here the response should contain something like this. If I click on OK, this comes out to be red, which means that the response never contained this string. If I run this, you see that? Okay. So anything in response, if you want to check, should be present, you can give in this particular assertion. Now you can also give the tag name, like I can give the tag name like sname. Sname is a tag, right? Fine, you can give it. So this assertion will check whether sname is present or not. Now the problem with this assertion is that for everything we have to check, we'll have to keep on adding more and more assertions. For every letter I'll have to add one assertion. So if my response is quite big and lot of comparisons have to be done, then I will face an issue. Or it will not be like it will become very big, too big to be managed. Look, when you make anything, when you code anything, you should think that it's think about management as well, because after doing the project, after implementing the project, you need to manage the project as well. If I put around 500 contains assertions over here and later on I have to change them, it will become really difficult, right? So again, I repeat, this contains assertion looks good, fine, but it's got a drawback as well. That is, what if you have to validate a lot of stuff? Fine. Again, the answer to this problem I'll give you by end of this module, but let me gather all the problems first. I'll tell you problems with each type of assertions and I'll gather everything together, and then in the end I'll tell you something. Right. Now this is contained assertion. Similarly, in property content, you have got not contains assertion as well. It is opposite of contains, as the word suggests. You can write over here, for example, I write ADAM. Adam is present, so this assertion will fail right now. Right, so if I write Adam 8 and click on OK, it passes. Right, so this assertion again is opposite of contains, and again, like contain, you will have to give, hold on, I'll add another, say